Good morning, good afternoon, good morning. This is Jeff with Astroscoop. Deep dive astrology coaching. It is Sunday, the 10th, August 10th, 2025. How's everyone doing? Sunday greetings to you. And you have the number one, that little crown is the number one fan badge. That's cute. Hope to see more of those. That's really nice. So happy Sunday. It's 12 p.m. Eastern time for Astroscoop live stream. And we'll wait a few minutes to see if anyone else pops in. But I think for now I've decided to keep the Astroscoop 3801 live streams here on YouTube. For now, I'm going to keep it Sundays at noon because this seems to be a very good time for me. I'm going to have the morning to prepare as well. And especially on a busy weekend, pushing it to Sunday kind of helps. And I'm trying to access the Pacific, and Central time zones, which are a little before me. It's the morning there. And also Europe would be dinner time. So I'm hoping to access those other time zones. But right now for the Astroscoop channel, I am growing. It's growing very slow. And the United States viewers are helping me to have my most views now for this summer of 2025. So US is on top right now with the views. So thank you. I appreciate that. And we'll wait a little bit. So how's everyone doing? August 10th. And summer is flying. And, believe it or not, in some school districts, the kids will be back to school in 2.5 weeks. And others will be 3 weeks or right after Labor Day. But that's coming super quick. So it's amazing how fast the summer goes. And of course, for us adults, the time zone, depending on what time zone you're in, and every day it's a different feel in terms of the weather and the sunlight. Now the sunset is around 8 o'clock Eastern time, so it starts much quicker and then ends much quicker as far as the twilight, in the evening. So pretty amazing. But it's 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I wanted to share a poignant but a little sad news that we lost our cat Kendall yesterday, and Ken was exactly 18 years old. Ken turned 18 last week, and he was born in 2007. And he made it to his 18th birthday, and then he passed away peacefully yesterday. Fortunately, he wasn't in much pain or suffering or anything. He was sleeping and napping and sleeping and napping and moved around a couple spaces, and then finally just passed away. But I want to share a picture, see if I can find a picture of him. Let's see. If I can, let me see. Oops. I'll try to do that. Okay, let's see. Okay, so let's do. Oh my goodness. Can you see that? So if that's Ken, that's our picture of Ken. That was taken, that might have been a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. He's much more vibrant there. But that was our sweet Ken. He was a Leo. He was born last week. And what an amazing, amazing animal. He was the absolute perfect cat in so many ways. Unbelievably affectionate and very, very, very dominant. He was very much an alpha animal, and all the other animals that we've had or other animals that have come over sort of submitted to him. As a Leo, he definitely ruled the roost. He was very sweet, but he was no doubt an alpha. He was an alpha leader animal, and he had those eyes that like one family member commented years ago. One of my family members, he said, "Boy, that's a beautiful cat." And I said, "Thank you." And he said, "Wow, it's like he's looking straight through my soul." That's what my family member said. And it's true. That cat was amazing. And he would stare at you and not ever give up. He was the only cat I've ever seen that would relentlessly beg for food or attention, and he would never give up. He would sit there for an hour, 2 hours. He was amazing. Yeah, and what a cutie. Yeah, he was awesome. But he got to turn 18, which is amazing. And I knew him for 17 years. I met him when he was 1. So pretty amazing cat. And of course, we're happy that he went peacefully. So that happy trails, Ken, in heaven. And so we still have 2 cats now, 2 cats left, a fish, and we have our new dog. I don't know if I have, I'm not sure if I have a picture of the dog on here, but let's see. No. Okay. But yeah, pretty amazing. And of course, sometimes people mourn animals more than people, more than our family. You could be more emotionally attached or closer to an animal than you could your own family, and that's okay. It's all energy. But cats and dogs give us so much communication, so much love, so much affection, and they are truly spiritual beings. Amazing. All right, so I'm just waiting. I've seen that no one else has popped in yet. So today we'll talk about Leo 2. Leo 2 runs from August 3rd until today, the 10th or 11th. So the Leo 2 period ends today or tomorrow, and then we're coming up into the last period of Leo. And then after that, it will be the Leo Virgo cusp, which is always amazing. But I'm feeling I felt like this full moon was very heavy. And it's interesting that our cat, who was a Leo, chose to pass away on the full moon, which is in the middle of Leo. Full moon yesterday at 17 of Aquarius, opposing the sun at Leo at 17. So that's kind of interesting. And so wherever Leo and Aquarius are in your birth chart or in any chart, yesterday, and it's still today, it's waning at 98%, so it's basically still full. The opposition of Leo, the self drives, and pouring that sun energy onto other people, and then the Aquarius energy to look out for their own independence, but in a less selfish or less self-serving way, to look out for the group or the group or community at large, in addition to preserving. A moon in Aquarius acts quite differently than a sun in Aquarius placement. So the full moon yesterday, having it in Aquarius, is emotionally very idealistic and detached. But that's good. That's good for Leo in a lot of ways, because Leo can learn those lessons of detachment. And I talked about last week how the word tolerance is so important for Leo people to learn. But the sun in Leo opposing the moon in Aquarius, fixed energies, fire and air, and yang. They're both masculine yang signs. So it could be a bit much, the Aquarius and Leo, and I kind of felt that yesterday. Again, depending on it, I have those signs intercepted in my chart, and intercepted just means it's hiding. These signs are not on a house cusp, but they're hiding inside a house. So if you have an astrologer do your chart, or you do your chart, every house has every house cusp has a sign, but some of your planets may be intercepted. So then they're inside and they're hiding. They're still active, but they're harder. It's harder for you to access those energies. And sometimes you'll have lessons with people that have those planets. So undoubtedly, I've learned a lot from people that have Leo and Aquarius planets in my life, because I don't have any planets in those signs, nor rising, and those signs in my chart are intercepted. So Leo and Aquarius for me is energy that's more hidden and harder for me to access those expressions of that air, fixed air and fixed fire. I have it in those areas of my life, but it's harder to access, and it is usually via someone else, other people, or situations that have Leo or Aquarius energy. So, and I very much admire Leo and Aquarius energies in some ways. I talked a little bit last week about how Leos can naturally attract attention. I think a lot of us secretly that aren't Leos would like to kind of tap into that sometimes. And Aquarius, one great thing about the moon in Aquarius people is, even though they're detached, the moon in Aquarius is a placement that is tolerant and lets everyone and everything be who they are. So that's the big plus of moon in Aquarius, more so than any other moon sign. It's not willing or directing someone or something to be in a box or be a certain way. The Aquarius moon celebrates differences, and they know they're different, and then they celebrate that in you and most likely allow you to be who you are in a very free way. So that's a really, really positive quality of the moon in Aquarius for the full moon that we're in. August 10, 2025. And so if you are a Leo or you know a Leo born this week, we talked about last week, pure Leo, which is all sun energy. So Leos born in the first decan are ruled by the sun, and then their co-ruler is the sun. So it's a very loyal, passionate sun type of person. So Leo 2s this week, which goes right up until today, the 10th, or 11th tomorrow, if you know anybody, still has the sun energy, but now what we add is Jupiter. So I talked about this last year in one of my videos. The sun plus Jupiter, you have two strong God kind of energy there, God energy, but it's also goddess too. The Jupiter is protective and adds a little more of a physical element to the Leo decan or Leo 2 people that are born this week. So you have Sun and Jupiter. So the Leos I've known born this week are absolutely leonine, but there's something a little more because of the Jupiter. There's something a little more fun, I would say, not quite as uptight or rigid as potentially as the first early Leo. Now, any Leo person in any decan the whole month has the lessons of learning to not be rigid. That's all the fixed signs, especially. It's not just Leo. To not be too fixed in their ways, and to not dominate their close circle of friends, family, coworkers, etc. So it's very important for Leos to be able to toe that line of having that influence and protecting people without dominating. And the Leos that I've known that are born this week up till the 10th or 11th definitely are a little more fun. They can do things. They do, most likely, they engage in things in a very, very big way. And they're strong. They have a a natural strength to them. This is all Leo, but Leos particularly born this week have a ability to hang in there. They are like in an endurance sign. They can really hang in there, kind of similar to like a Capricorn or a Taurus type of energy. Oh, stay up there. So they can really hang in there. And with the addition of Jupiter being in the DECAN, it really magnifies and amplifies everything they do, much more than a pure Sun in Leo that was born last week, like the 1st or the 2nd or the 3rd, even like July 30th. That would be Leo 1. So Leo 2 is amplifying that Sun energy, and it is magnifying that Sun energy, however the person uses it. You know, Leo is a tough sign, sometimes tough to get along with. Leos can be magnificent in a good way or a bad way. So their magnificence, their Sun energy and that Jupiter energy is so big and so bright and so loud that if they're positive and they're mature and secure, absolutely wonderful to be around. So I mentioned last week how some women have told me that when they're around some Leo men, a secure, positive Leo man, that they feel like the sun's out. Well, I would agree the flip of that. I've been around certain Leo women when they're feeling secure and happy, that it's the same thing, that it feels like the sun is out when you're around them. And they can often make you feel like you're the only person in the room or in the group. And that's a sort of a big gift that a positive Leo can bestow. And they truly want to give and receive your attention when they're feeling secure. So again, positive Leos have amazing qualities, and that sun energy is beautiful and it's super warm. But it can run amok. It can run amok here with the sun energy and Jupiter. So this is the case with all fire signs. Certain decans have different lessons, but the Leo 2 energy is the strength. They are seeking balance with that strength. And the opposite, which is Aquarius 2, which is the full moon yesterday, that just like I talked about, the tolerance and detachment, which can be frustrating. The detachment of Aquarius can be frustrating to other signs when Aquarius is not participating so much in life. Sometimes Aquarius is like on the sidelines and not participating, and people feel that. But the upside is that detachment and clarity that is so important for Leo, especially Leo 2s. Very important for them to engage in that, have that clarity and detachment. But they can run amok because they do everything in a big, big way. Now, this is similar to like a Sagittarius person, because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. But Sagittarius is more restless and adventurous, and they're shooting their arrows in different directions. This Leo energy is still much more single-minded and focused. It's not as scattered. It's not as adventurous as, say, a Sagittarius in the Leo decan, which we'll get to and which we'll all be talking about in late December. That would be like a sun Sagittarius person, Jupiter and Sun instead of Sun and Jupiter. So this is a Jupiter influence, but it's not necessarily a Sagittarius influence. But they can run amok with those energies. And this is an interesting thing I've noticed about Leo people, especially born this week. They often overestimate themselves. They overestimate their confidence, their abilities, and their strengths. So there's a fine line of knowing what your worth is, and your skills and your strengths, and then overestimating yourself. And I do notice a lot of people with major Leo planets will overestimate their ability to either deal with something or achieve something. because sometimes they just think their very presence, their big presence and their personality will win people over. But there's a lot more to it in life, obviously. So they can overestimate themselves greatly, especially with Jupiter. Again, they need that balance. And because they overestimate, it's often hard for them to compromise. Now, this is true for all Leo periods. It's no secret that Leos don't compromise easily, for the most part. If a Leo has Pisces or Cancer or Libra in their chart, it will certainly be easier, or maybe even Taurus. Certain things that would soften the Leo or chill the Leo out a little bit. Yeah, but the compromise is hard for them. And I say this every year, it's really important for Leo energies to ease up, to ease up their sort of dominant ways. And Leo people I've known born this week up to the 10th or 11th, they can be very, very sunny, obviously, because they're ruled by the sun. There's no doubt a sunny side. But I've noticed a sort of a depressive kind of side when they feel rejected or dejected. And they don't get over it easily. This is how different they are from their fellow fire signs, Aries or Sagittarius. So Leos, if a Leo's pride is hurt or they feel dejected, they have to go, they need their alone time, they need isolations to nurse their wounds, like a cat that's wounded, like a cat that has a paw that's wounded with a cut or something. They need that, and they need that a lot in life. So again, when they're overestimating themselves or they're overestimating how others perceive them or love them or like them, they may not be looking at things realistically, and that would set them up not to compromise. And then they're not easing up. They're just assuming that their greatness and their presence is winning everyone over. And they're missing the more subtle aspects of relationships. So that can be a tough lesson for them to feel dejected or depressed, especially Leos born this week. So they can often swing, not so much like a Cancer Leo cusp, which can be kind of manic with sun and moon energy, but they can swing from this sunniness to a little bit of a darker fire, where they need to kind of be a little more regal and aloof and go inside and nurse their slights or their wounds, kind of thing. Now, what's really important is to look at what aspects they have to the sun and the placement, and also Jupiter. So that would give you hints or clues on how they're going to use their Leo energy. So Leo 2s are absolutely inspiring, or they're antagonistic. They often are one or the other. And again, the Jupiter influence here is magnifying these qualities, either good or bad or neutral. So Leos can be very much their own worst enemy in some ways, Leo planets. Now, any sign can be. We can all misfire and display our more negative characteristics or flaws that get us into hot water and trouble. And that's incredibly true for all three fire signs, that can rub people the wrong way or burn people a little bit when fire signs are running too hot. But they're often inspiring or antagonistic. So if you had two Leos together, if you had two Leo 2s together, it would depend on the matchup. Like, how would they be compatible? Well, I talked a little bit about this last week. I mean, two Leos it's a magnificent kind of combination. They're rivals, and very much like siblings, especially same-sex siblings, vying for attention of a third party, vying for attention of outside influences or achievement, or vying for some kind of achievement, extroverted achievement, is very important to Leo, and that recognition. So if you had two Leo people together, it's very much a 50-50 of yes or no. There's no way to know how that's going to work. If I was looking at the charts of two Leo people and they just met and said, hey, are we good for the long-term relationship, marriage even? I would look at the sun houses, but because I'm looking at mostly the sun, I would also look to Venus and Mars, and I would especially look to Mars to how the Leo person uses their energy. Because Leo is a big, fierce sign, but Leo can also be gentle and loving, just like cats. So the Mars sign for the Leo person, even though Leo isn't ruled by Mars, but Mars is energy. So it's really key to know. For example, I know many Leo people that have Mars in an air sign. You know, that gives them a certain detachment in relationships, which can be a pro or a con depending on how you look at it. But sometimes the air is good for Leo because it cools them off a little bit. So they don't, especially Mars in an air sign like Aquarius or Gemini, doesn't run on pure emotions, doesn't run on pure intuition or personality. That's hot like the fire signs would, like a Mars in Aries or a Mars in Sag. So that would be very important. So I know some Leo people that have Mars in air, and they're probably a little more independent and a little less attention seeking because of that Mars that's in a different element and is in the opposite element of fire. Fire and air are opposite. So that sort of thing. And so for some reason, I've known several Leos with Mars and air signs, now that I'm thinking of it. But that's very important. So the antagonistic side of Leo, that really comes out with people with other Leo planets. So one Leo 2, if another person has a 17-degree Leo planet, it could be conjunct their sun, which could be very nice and very compatible, but it could also be too much of the same fire energy, which can be antagonistic. So it's very important for the Leo energy of those two Leo people to work that out and have balance. They have to be mature, they have to be evolved and have some kind of balance. And again, if they're younger, there's probably going to be a lot of fun there, and they're going to support each other in terms of goals and maybe being ambitious, projects, big projects with Jupiter there. But as they get older, they're going to need that balance of who's ruling the roost kind of thing. Now, if a Leo 2 was with an Aquarius 2 person, that, just like I talked about last week at great length about Leo and Aquarius, Leo 2 and Aquarius 2 are similarly magnetically attracted to each other, just like an early Aquarius and early Leo. Absolute attraction. And again, that attraction can go either way. So very much like two Leos, an Aquarius and a Leo planet together, two people, can be very magnetic, very idealistic, a lot of intellectual stimulation and learning there. And also both are very fixed, so they tend to be loyal and hang in there, but it's a bit much. So again, if there aren't other energies in their charts to kind of soften or smooth out that fixed air, that fixed fire, then you could have some problems there. So Leos, in one way, Leo 2s teach the air signs and even water signs, mostly air, because air signs can be a little indecisive. They can be into a lot of different things, and it's sometimes hard to pin down. For air signs, it's hard to pin down what they want to do, where they want to go, what decisions. So Leo 2s can help teach air signs and water signs to act decisively and to just hang in there and be strong. And so a positive Leo 2 person can be very loyal and quite reliable, and you could pretty much count on them. But that has its downside. So this is true for all the fixed signs, but especially Leo 2s. And I've seen this with Leo 2 people that I've met. They hang in there in certain relationships or friendships or even jobs that are not in their best interest and not necessarily healthy. And it's hard for Leo 2 to just let go. But it's different than like Cancer. Cancer is tenacious, emotionally tenacious, and it's hard for Cancer to let go emotionally. For Leo, it's more so their personality and all this that they've invested in something because they've decided that this is important to them, and again, if they're not compromising, so the Leo 2 person might not see, they might not see that their lack of ability to compromise or ease up can be a problem in the relationship or friendship. So it's very important for them to understand that. But they can really help some of the other signs to act decisively, especially like Libra, Gemini, Pisces, Cancer, and maybe even Virgo. Leos can really help to say, hey, look, you got to put your flag in the sand, you got to be brave, and you got to make a decision and stick with it. So that's a big plus, a big positive for Leo 2 people. All right, so I kind of scattered the celebrities inside here instead of doing all the celebrities at the end. Depending on when people come in and out of the live stream, I want to try to make it a little more streamlined so people don't have to watch the whole live stream if they don't want to, whereas the celebrities are always at the end. So I'm trying to do a little bit of transits, a little bit of celebrity examples. I'm trying to mix those in as we talk about the transits and the full moon and everything. So I have Benjamin Gibbard. Ben Gibbard, he's the lead singer of a group called Death Cab for Cutie. And they arrived from Seattle in the late 90s. They're still touring today. And they're a really interesting pop rock alternative group. And Ben has had a lot of relationship problems, and he's also had substance abuse problems, which he's talked about. But he puts such an amazing, heartfelt sun energy into his music. So if you listen to some of Death Cab for Cutie's ballad type songs, most of them are chill, but some of them are more ballad than the pop songs. They're just absolutely beautiful. His warmth is unbelievable of what he puts into it. But he's talked about a lot of his struggles in his personal life, especially with Zooey Deschanel, whom he was married to, the actress Zooey. So, but Benjamin Gibbard, he's one of the best examples of Leo 2, and I think his birthday's tomorrow. So Adam Yauch, he died in 2012. He was one of the co-founders of the Beastie Boys from New York. The Beastie Boys, a rap, pop, rock alternative group that went from a kind of a crass group to kind of an indie, very kind of bohemian indie cult group where they learned to play instruments. And he was very instrumental in the dramatic delivery of the Beastie Boys. He was very much a strong personality in that group, and he's definitely very missed. Martin Sheen, another very, very good example, born August 3rd, 1940, a really, really good example of a Leo 2. Martin, obviously, if you've seen Martin Sheen in any movies, most notably Apocalypse Now, but also a lot of other smaller movies. Martin's the father of 4 sons, including Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez, who are famous. But he has 4 sons, and they're all, I believe, they're all in acting, even the lesser known. Boy, that's annoying. But Martin Sheen he's a great example. And if you look at him when he was younger, what a handsome guy, and what a small guy, very, very petite physically, but what a commanding presence. Very much kind of like Robert De Niro, another Leo, Dustin Hoffman, another Leo, these small men that have a commanding look on screen depending on how the director shoots them. So Martin Sheen is a really, really great example, and I think he gave a lot of that Sun Leo energy to both Emilio and Charlie. Obviously, Emilio and Charlie have had different kind of lives as actors, and Charlie's much more of a troubled man, but Martin is a very, very good example. Herb Ellis is a really good example of a kind of elegant jazz musician. He was part of the Oscar Peterson Trio. He was born August 4th, 1921. And he was one of the brightest and best jazz guitarists in a sea of African-American musicians at that time in the 50s and 60s. So he was surrounded, it was mostly African-American musicians that he played with. And but he was one of the brightest and most talented, and had a very, very strong influence in that kind of style of jazz in the 50s. And what's interesting is he performed in Stratford, the Shakespeare Stratford Festival in Canada, which is kind of interesting. I just love, I'm not from Canada, but I love Canada. Canada, there's something about when I visit Canada, Canada has there's a certain heart energy. I don't know what it is, might be from a past life or something. But when I go to Canada, I just feel such a vibe. I don't know how to explain it. And there's other places that I've traveled to that I like, but every time I've never traveled to Canada and not felt that sort of that vibe. So it's interesting that he recorded with the Oscar Peterson Trio in the 50s at the Stratford, Ontario Shakespearean Festival, which there's these Stratford cities all over the world, which is pretty cool. So he's a great example. Sorry about this. All right, come on, stay. So probably the best example, the strongest example for someone that's more current is Whitney Houston. Now, Whitney Houston was born August 9th, 1963, and we lost Whitney a few years ago. Whitney is she is one of the best Leo examples, I think, in history of Leo energy, especially in entertainment. She and Madonna are very much amazing female examples of the power and strength, and also the loving and the positive, loving, and warm vibes that the sun energy comes off of a Leo person. So let's take a look at, I'm going to try to share my screen. Let's take a look at Whitney's chart. I think I have it up. Yep, here we go. All right, so can you see that? Okay, I think you can see that. So Whitney was born August 9th, 1963 in Newark, New Jersey. And I copied this from Astro Theme. I just created this on my SolarFire software, which I love. This software is amazing. It's so crisp and clean and legible. It's just wonderful. But anyways, so there's one thing that stands out immediately to me when I look at Whitney's chart, rest in peace, Whitney, is the lack of earth. So a lot of times when astrologers look at the chart, you look at the power of the chart. You look at the drama. You look at the stelliums. You look at the crosses or grand trines. You look at the power. You're looking for Leo and Scorpio and Aries and all these strong signs. Looking for the strengths, right? Looking for the juice. But what I look at immediately when I read a chart for someone is I kind of look at what are the lacks, because we all lack something. And then there's lessons with other people or situations. Countries have events. Countries have charts. Events have charts, right? So they have planets that can affect us. So Whitney had Taurus on the 3rd, which is sensual for speaking and singing. She had Capricorn on the 11th, and then she had Virgo on the 7th house of relationships. Now, this is interesting. Uranus and Mercury and Pluto and Virgo. So she's not completely lacking Earth here. However, Mercury is the only major planet in Earth, and it's Mercury, and it's in Virgo. No major Capricorn, no major Taurus. No major nothing in the 2nd house, which is Earth. Nothing in the 10th house, which is Earth. However, she had all these planets in the 6th house, Sun, Venus, and Uranus. So what does this tell me? Well, it tells me that Whitney was very much a mixed bag of restlessness and a lack of grounding energy, and yet incredibly perfectionistic and an incredibly hard worker with all this daily routine of 6th house. We have her Sun in Leo and Venus in Leo, which are both direct in the 6th house of work, everyday routine. So her Leo on the 6th, work and that daily routine of practicing singing, practicing performing. She was an absolute perfectionist, as most high-level singers and entertainers are. Very much like Madonna. And Madonna has major Virgo in her chart. But so there is Virgo, a lot of Virgo influence here, and this would also indicate her power with other people that have Virgo planets, including Bobby Brown, who she had an incredibly tempestuous relationship, on and off relationship with for more than a decade, between both of their substance abuse issues, physical abuse, and lack of grounding issues. There's a lot there, a lot of pressure in the entertainment industry, I imagine. But that's what I see off the bat. But the Sun and Venus in Leo, I mean, it's not surprising that she had more than one planet in Leo. And of course, all that Leo energy was ruled by her Sun in Leo in the 6th. So it just takes it all back to Leo in the 6th of daily routine. So every single day, her focus was, how can I perform and how can I be better? That was her main focus. Now, she also has a strong 7th house here. She's Mars, Pluto, Mercury, all in the 7th house of other people. Neptune here in the 8th, Saturn in the 12th. The 1st house is strong. Look at this. Strong Aries energy in the 1st house. I talked about how it would be with Leo, a Leo planet in the 1st house. But what is it like with Aries planets in the 1st house? It's like double Aries. Moon in Aries in the 1st, Jupiter in Aries in the 1st. Whitney was an incredibly aggressive person, and I read one instance where she and Bobby Brown were being heckled or taunted by people at a hotel. So they were away on tour or something, and people were bothering them. So they were calling them names. And Whitney was the one that physically got into a fight with one of the men that were bothering Bobby. So she came to Bobby's defense and started apparently physically fighting with this other guy. So, with all of Whitney's fire, with all of her Leo and all her Aries here, and Sag on the 10th, I mean, she was an incredibly fiery person. And what strikes me is, see this blue here? See this trine? Big, strong trine. She was absolutely gifted with fire energy and knew how to express it. There was no holding her back, but she also couldn't hold herself back probably in terms of being impulsive, whether that was positive or negative, getting into fights, doing drugs, being with a troubled man. There was no way that Whitney was going to have a stable lifestyle. I don't see a lot of stability here. Very, very tough chart. Very, very difficult chart for Whitney. And then, of course, she had Pisces rising, which is why she was so beautiful. She had this magical kind of aura about her, ruled by Neptune in the 8th, which is also very, very sexy. That's very glamorous and sexy. So Whitney had it all. She had it all, but there was also a lot lacking there. So it's just an interesting thing when you look at someone like Whitney and how she used her Leo energy. What I don't see in the planets here is, there's not a lot of great. Mercury is well placed, but Mars is not in Libra. Moon in Aries is kind of abrasive. Venus in Leo can be very, very kind of selfish, so to speak. So there's not a lot here to soften or dampen Whitney's, her fire, so to speak. So, but I think Whitney is a great example. Whitney's a great example of the Leo energy, especially born this week. Her birthday was yesterday, and she would have been 62. Okay, so let me stop sharing. Okay. All right, we only have one person in now, so probably end a little early here. So let's talk about the transits. And so I think I have a transit chart to show you. Let me see. All right. Okay, chart. All right, here we go. It's the transits. So here, this is for August 10th, 2025. Today, this is for 12 p.m., which is 45 minutes ago. Let's just forget that thing just wants to fall. So we have Mercury in Leo at 4 degrees retrograde. So I see a lot of astrologers talking about this. So it's actually stationed. Oh, okay. So it's stationed right now. Let me check something here. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it goes direct tomorrow. Oh, yeah. Okay. So tomorrow's August 11, 2025. We go direct for Mercury. And then that will bring us to, let's see. That brings us to Mercury in Virgo on September 3rd. Direct. And then Mercury going to move fast. September 19th, Mercury goes to Libra. So between now and September 19th, a little over a month, we have Mercury going from stationed retrograde Leo to stationed Leo to Virgo to Libra. So a lot of changes. So this retrograde in Leo and Mercury in Leo is not a great astrological placement. It has a lot of weak spots and blind spots, and can be very willful. And again, not a great Mercury for compromise. I've known quite a few people with Mercury and Leo, and when you hurt their pride or get into an argument with them, very, very hard. Not only is it hard to win, but it's hard to even just come to a neutral, a neutral conclusion because it's so willful. But we have Venus conjunct Jupiter, which is nice in Cancer. So Cancer planets that are around between 10 and 15 are getting a nice conjunction from Venus and Jupiter, which I think is pretty cool. And of course, those are direct. So as far as the water, we have no Scorpio. We have the moon in Pisces today. We have the node in Pisces, of course, is still retrograde. And then we have this Cancer energy, which is direct. And so one thing we're really lacking, I just mentioned when we looked at Whitney Houston's chart, that her chart lacks major Earth. She's not completely devoid of Earth, but it lacks major Earth. So that is also right now, August 10th. Here's Virgo on the 11th. Taurus, Uranus is now gone into Gemini and it's direct. So it's a Taurus cusp, but it's not in Taurus. And then we have Capricorn intercepted here in the 3rd. So I talked about that's hidden energy. So there's not a lot of strong Earth energy right now in the cosmic sky. So the con of that is we might not feel grounded. And we have to work harder to not fly off the handle and to be a little more stable, calm, and patient. Excuse me. And so the lack of Earth is grounding. The pro of that is a lack of, there's not too much cautiousness or rigidity doing things in a rigid, practical way all the time. Everything doesn't have to be rigid and practical like the Earth signs want. So the lack of Earth this week means that we can all tap into some of these other energies, primarily major Leo and Aries fire energy, a little water. And of course, most notably here, the biggest change is Mars in Libra. So the Mars in Libra here at 2, which is Mars in Libra is not well placed astrologically. It is a detriment. It's a detriment along with Mars and Taurus. So detriment just means it's harder for the person to express. They have to work harder at expressing the more positive qualities of that sign through their energy. It doesn't mean it's terrible, and it doesn't mean astrologers love to say that a Mars in Libra or a Mars in Taurus is lazy and can't ever achieve anything. yes, the Venus signs for Mars can be lazy, absolutely. And they can enjoy comfort more than ambition or drive. But it does not mean that they can't achieve things. They achieve things in a different way. It's just like a Mars in Aries or a Mars in Capricorn is extremely well placed, but that doesn't guarantee someone success or anything. It is easier for them if they have good aspects to Mars and they have an Aries Mars or a Capricorn Mars. It is easier for them. It's going to be easier to get up and have that drive to go achieve something, especially in the cardinal signs. And but Mars in Libra is still yang. It's still a masculine sign, even though it's ruled by Venus. So it's kind of both. It's kind of Venus and Mars kind of thing. But it's masculine, ruled by Venus. It wants peace and harmony, but Mars in Libra will also fight for injustice. So Libra Mars is a good position for like a judge, a lawyer, a mediator, anyone that is in a consultant, someone that consults with teachers or groups or businesses. Mars and Libra would be great for that. That's a naturally good placement. So again, like when I said Mercury in Leo is not a great placement, doesn't mean it's all bad. It just means it may have a tendency to express more of the negative traits of that sign through that planet. So it's harder for that native to express the positive signs. Like the Mercury in Leo, this is, if a baby is born today, if a baby was just born at 12 p.m. Eastern time, he or she has Mercury in Leo. So it's going to be naturally easy for them to look out for themselves and to be enthusiastic, impulsive, and maybe even organized. But what will not be easy for the person is compromise. Oh, there it goes. will not be easy is compromise and to even out, soften or dumb down their will a little bit. Not everything has to be willful. So a strong will is great, and it is required in life to be willful and to be strong. Life is tough, Life gives us all punches, beats us all down a little bit. So we do need a strong will to hang in there. But Mercury in Leo can be really sunny and fun, but it can also be very opinionated, dominating, and willful mentally. So it just depends on how the person uses it. All right. Well, there's no one else in here, so I think I'm gonna end early. Hold on. Let me see. Stop sharing this. I'm gonna end early. Here's if you want to take a look here. There's the Mars in Libra and its opposition Neptune in Aries, which is very interesting. So just a reminder, so for now, I am permanently making my live streams. Carolyn says, great analysis of a great sign. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, Leo is magnificent. They can be really, really good or really bad. But whatever they do, it's powerful. So yeah, and since I don't have any Leo planets, I know that I can definitely learn from people with Leo, even if I secretly don't like it. I know that I can learn, and I do admire some of those better Leo qualities. So I'm permanently keeping this live stream for Astroscoop on YouTube Sundays at 12. So please make a note of that in your calendar or phone. Sundays at noon. This is Eastern time. If you're in the West Coast, that would be 9 a.m. If you're in London, that would be 5 p.m. Sundays, that sort of thing. So, and parts of Canada is an hour difference, like Nova Scotia area. I think you're like an hour. Canadians, you might be an hour difference. So, but you can always catch the replay. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I still have about 80% of my viewers. I know I was talking about this a year ago. It was 90%. Here it is. The next summer, I still have 80%. 8 out of 10 people are not subscribed. So please subscribe to YouTube, on YouTube to Astroscoop. It's free. You can donate to me via Venmo if you want, which is at Astroscoop. If you need details, I can send you the link. I hardly ever get donations. But in order to grow the channel, everything costs money. Anything would help, even $1.50. It's about the thought, not the amount. So thank you for tuning in. I know this was a light day. Happy Leo. And next week, we'll be talking about Leo 3, the last part of proper Leo. And then we'll be talking about what it's going to be like for the Leo Virgo cusp. And then we're going to be talking about back to school, back to work, back to fall routines for everybody, including all the adults. So that's amazing that that's coming. So whoever popped in late, thank you for coming in. The live streams are here Sundays at 12 p.m. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I will have a video out later today. Look for a video today. It's super late, and I've been very lazy with my videos. I apologize for that. This summer, I have been incredibly lazy, and I admit that. So I'm struggling. Oh, my allergies. I'm struggling. I've been struggling with this channel to get more motivated. And it's, to be honest, it's been a big struggle to get more motivated. So I'm trying, but it's not easy. So look for today, Sunday, probably about 4 or 5 hours. I will have a Cancer Leo cusp video. So look for that. Thank you so much, everyone. Stay safe and be yourself.